Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. So we talked a lot about some of the new cards in the upcoming Mean Streets of Gadgetzan expansion, and with this in mind, I get pretty inspired to go out there and see what other people are coming up with, so I get to compare the two. I feel like Blizzard has some really great ideas overall, some good concepts. They actually have to worry about the balance of the game, but when I see users come up with cards, I am often more impressed, and I want to show you guys another collection of the examples I've stumbled upon in the last few months, starting with a new variation of the card that was just announced. So this is the Don Honcho user-created edition. Pretty good, right? Give a random minion in your hand attack and health equal to this minion's attack and health. So it's similar to the original Don Honcho that Blizzard came up with, but it has more scalability. It's already a good card in its original state, but you guys know when you have a really big minion, often the stats don't really matter. So the difference between a 2-drop having like an extra stat point is game-changing, game-winning sometimes. But when it comes to a 7-drop being a 10-10 or a 10-11, really that almost never ever makes a difference, because usually it's just hit with large minion removal, or it's too slow in point of the game, so you just lose by playing it. So there's a lot of these aspects that make it so Don Honcho could honestly be a lot more powerful and still be relatively the same power level, and I just think it's really cool to have synergy on synergy every now and then. So great stuff. Then I stumbled upon Announce Darkness. So this is similar to the Renounce Darkness, but it's the opposite, and it's curiously a rogue card. So it's a 3-cost, replace your hero power and neutral cards with Warlock ones. The cards cost 1 less. So it replaces your neutral, not your class cards, and it replaces your hero power, which is very interesting, particularly as a rogue class, because there's been a lot of things that Blizzard has tried to do to manipulate the rogue hero power and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't really work just because it's so clunky to drop daggers in the late game. But in the late game, when you don't really have any HP to use, Announcing Darkness and going into a Warlock hero power is going to give you so many more tough decisions and encourage you to play weapons. So love the design of this card. And I saw Sir Thomas Thompson, 7 mana, 4/6, Battlecry, discover a 1-cost minion, and your hero power now summons this minion. So, this can get a little bit out of control, but it is a 7-drop. It's very undercost in terms of the stats, so, it's basically got control deck written all over it, which kind of inherently makes it relatively balanced. So, there's that. And there's Chain Minds, a 4-mana Warlock card. Damage you take this turn is also dealt to all enemies. So, for instance, if you use this, and of course your Warlock, you probably have your starting Warlock hero power, you just life tap, take 2, it's basically going to deal 2 to all your opponent's minions and your opponent. And generally it's probably not going to be much more than that, but of course there's some, really high combo potential. And I think a card like this is really important because Warlock has really struggled since the nerf of the Giants to really excel in anything but Zoolock, and I think it's one of the decks that players really miss. So, maybe not exactly this card is what the game needs, but the game does need something similar to it, to kick off some of those old school decks that actually had a lot of skill behind, the results. And we had another Warlock card, Curator, Tyrant of the Menagerie. So it's a 7 mana 4/6, just like the original and the mech. If you're holding a demon, a pirate, and a mech, destroy all other minions. So love this card. So cool. Super conditional board clears that are ridiculously powerful. It's like an all-in do or die situation, get everything or get nothing. I think it's really cool. And, with the game also struggling on board clears so heavily, having cards like these is just a genius way of kind of balancing that out. You can have board clears, but you have to invest a lot. You have to have a big hand size, and does actually encourage you to use them in heavy and slow control decks. We have Ancient of Sacrifice. So it's a 6 mana 4/8 and has taunt while your hero is below 10 health. Now, what I really like about this card, and it's a very subtle difference from what you might expect from typical Blizzard design, is it's a conditional ability that is not on a trigger. So what that means is it's not like a battle cry. It's not like you play this, and if you have 10 or less health, it gets taunt. No, it just immediately receives taunt the moment your hero goes below 10. So why that's relevant is it has a lot of impact on the ordering of your opponent's attack. It makes it so a lot of the decks that are very easy to play, like the Zoo-like, the Curve decks, they actually have to face tough decisions when playing against you because, you know, if you're at like 12 HP and they have like a 6 attack minion and like a 2 attack minion, well, you know, they might want to attack with a 6 attack minion to get you to a lower value so they can maybe kill you with a combination of spells later on, or they might get you to exactly 10 so they could use the 6 to try to get through the taunt minion over the next 2 turns. So you can force these tough decisions based on these conditional ability cards, and I think Blizzard should really embrace this idea. I think it's a really powerful mechanic to just spontaneously have an effect from your opponent's side of the board when it's your turn. I also really like the stat line. I think a lot of minions kind of have the old school stats. We say they're good stats. You know, this is 6 for 12 total stats. That's nothing impressive, right? And you know, typically when we look at a card like that, we'd say it's not very good stats. And we take a look at, you know, just the traditional classic cards, the no text. You have like the 6 mana 6/7s, and those are like okay, like for arena and stuff. And this is, you know, it's kind of supposed to be worse than that, but it's really not. The reason is, you know, the divide between aggressive decks and control decks is very extreme. And usually against control decks, you can run other tools, but against aggro decks, you just need like 3, maybe 4 attack, and then you just want the entirety of the relevant stats to be put into the health of the minion. And yeah, it's really, really good. This is a very simple card, but it really hits all the details of what the game needs all in one. So great work. And Treasure Chest. It's a 1 mana rogue card and shuffles 3 coins into each player's deck and you draw a card. So you get a cycle, and presumably you're playing a miracle rogue, so the coins will probably result in lots and lots of card draw, while your opponent will have completely dead draws. And I just love that balance. Now, I don't think Miracle Rogue really needs much more to push it to be a top tier deck, but I think it might be fun. I think it might be a change of pace, maybe changing this so it's like maybe 2 coins. I think will be relatively balanced or something like that, but just the design behind, you know, dropping some really shitty cards in your opponent's deck forcefully as a means to win the late game is just such a cool concept. Minor Side Quest. 1 mana summons 2 zombie chows for your opponent. So again, it's a rogue card. I think if it was like a warrior card, it'd be a little bit busted, but you know, it's a rogue card. Rogue really needs heals, and this is a very creative way to do it. Do some quests as a rogue, get those heals from the death rattle effects. Very, very cool. I think, you know, we talk about the game needing heal cards, particularly for classes like rogue, and having a clever way to implement them, I think, is going to make the difference between a good expansion and a great expansion. And this is one of the best examples I've seen. And we have Vilus the Observer. So it's a 10 mana 5/7 demon, and it summons all minions that you discarded this game. Now, the discard mechanic in the Warlock deck, I was pretty excited about it until it basically started working out in Zoo decks. So, you know, I think this card is really interesting. I think it's a very cool way to bring back control into this type of deck, this type of mechanic. But I think it's also going to need some more support. It's probably going to need some control-oriented discard cards. It's very difficult to balance those because, well, Zoo decks don't actually discard, and control decks generally do discard because they have a bigger hand that they often can't drop. So it'll need some more support cards, but I love the design. And we have Magma Raiment. 3 mana, set a minion's attack to 5 and its health to 1. So it's kind of like a transformation effect. It makes it, since you're paladin, you can use your 1/1 recruits to deal with just about anything. And yeah, I think it's really cool. I really, really like transformative stats, and in the past have been a little bit overpowered with Paladin, and maybe this is a little bit too powerful as well, but I think it's really cool. You can use it aggressively, you can use it to clear something off your opponent's board. Just, really, really cool stuff. And then finally here, there's a way to bring back nerfed cards. Yogg-Saron Cultist. 2 mana, 2/3, Battlecry. Your Yogg-Saron Hope's End will fully complete its Battlecry. So I really like this idea because a lot of the cards that have been nerfed in the past were just really cool and really fun. And instead of just completely removing them from the game, and with Yogg-Saron, it's debatable whether that actually happened. It's really interesting. It's a really cool idea to have this, you can put these extra cards in your deck. Your deck will overall be a lot worse, but if you really, really want to relive that old experience, you can. And yeah, I think that should be a thing, and I think Blizzard should just keep that big concept in mind. If people really want to play a specific deck, you really should encourage them to do that, even if you've kind of messed with it with nerfs and all that kind of stuff. Infiltrator Akash, 5 mana, 5/6. Before the game starts, replace your hero and other rogue cards with another's. Presumably at random, and the battle cry would revert the effect. So this is just one of the cards I decided to throw in there because it's just incredibly wild and incredibly cool. It's probably not ever going to be very powerful, but I think the game needs cards like these, and that is just about one of the coolest ones I've seen. Spike Claw Druid, 4 mana, 4/5. Whenever you gain armor, convert it to attack. Conversion effects are really powerful, particularly in Druid, where often you don't need one thing, you need another. And I think this type of mechanic should kind of be pushed out there because it's just really cool, and it gives you a lot of moments where you have to make tough decisions. So when you start putting cards like these in play, it's very much like Akanai Soul Priest. You're moving in one direction, and even though that direction is a very strong one, you immediately show your weakness to your opponent, and that can be a pretty big one. And then lastly on my list here, I have the Atalai Bloodletter. 2 mana, 2/3, Battlecry. Attack a minion. There's a lot of this card. I don't think this card is broken because in the late game when there's only big minions in play, it'll basically just kill itself for 2, but it's a minion, it has a battle cry effect, it can basically be used as minion removal. So just, again, lots of decision making, lots of interesting plays that you could make with it, and overall not too high of a power level. And I think, with kind of wrapping it up after this card, that's really what the game needs. Hearthstone needs cards that put you in positions where you have to make tough decisions with very relevant and very significant outcomes on your choices. And it's been lacking that. It's been more minion combat, it's been less combo, it's been more standard stuff, and it's been less wild stuff. And I think going back to those old roots is really going to make Hearthstone a much better game. For now, though, I hope you guys enjoyed my review. If you do want to check out more cards, there's a lot of tools out there that allow you to create cards. A lot of the very cool cards that you've seen from this video are posted on the custom Hearthstone subreddit, so make sure to check that out if you're interested in either seeing more or posting your own creations. And overall, I just hope you're enjoying this. So with that in mind, I'll see you guys next time.